The theory about this is on a tax assessment basis is reconstruction costs new, less depreciation. It is a specialty assessment method that applies to unique specialty properties. And it means that we value it as if the city had to build the dams and reservoirs anew in 2010, assuming it was just a valley. And they were coming in like they originally did and had to acquire the land, build it, clear it, grub it, build the roads, relocate utilities, do everything. You know, it's sort of a, you know, it's by nature a make-believe scenario. But you're working on some basic facts in an area there, and you're trying to analyze the cost of what it would do to reconstruct it new. Now, the first victory we had as part of some of the litigation and in terms of this agreement is the city is committed to the concept of reconstruction new, less depreciation. That was not an original agreement on their part. So that was the first thing we won. And that gets to everything. So that's why you add it. You say, well, you know, how much does it cost you to build a dam? And how, you know, what's in there? You know, how many tons of cement? How many tons of rebar that goes in there? How many roads? You know, you had to build a new bridge over the Papacton and over the Cannonsville. How much does it cost to build that bridge? How much would it cost to build that bridge today? Not necessarily the technology or the design that it had then. What's your current design and what would be necessary? So that's what you would calculate, and we'd have the lines for permitting, design, financing, and all the other soft costs. And you add that all up together, and you'll have your assessed valuation. Not your equalized assessed valuation, but then you apply your equalization rate. You're all with me so far, right? So, getting deeper into the weeds. Historically, one of the most difficult things was figuring out how do you value the lands underwater. You have 15, 20, 30,000 acre reservoirs. They were hamlets, they were farms, they were villages, they were houses, they were people. How do you find a comparable of what's there? Now, you know, originally they tried to say, you know, back in the day that this is just vacant land, useless vacant land, and it should only be assessed as useless vacant land that has no value. And that doesn't work. On the other hand, we said you had to value it as if you acquired it, you know, for the type of house that was there, and assume that house got rebuilt and people kept living in there, and, you know, it developed differently. And I've heard people say, you know, maybe there might have been a Walmart there or something. We should value, you know, the lost assets assessment we would have had if there was, you know, a really nice store there. There is no agreed upon simple method employed in New York State, and I don't think it's really clear even nationwide how you deal with this issue. It is always a subject of taking your best shots at it and litigating or negotiating it between the respective municipalities. And of course, as the watershed communities, we were at a disadvantage. And it's very hard to find comparables because, you know, in your normal appraiser, when they're going out and finding comparables for a land value, it says, all right, well, let's see, I got to assess the value of this 10-acre parcel that may or may not have a house on it. I know what this parcel looks like. I know where it's located. I know its street frontage. I know if it has municipal water and sewer. I know what town it's in. I'll find something that looks at it. I'll get comparable sales. I'll do my appraiser's hocus pocus on it. I'll tell you what the fair market value is. It's inherently difficult to do that for something that's buried underwater and is not necessarily the same. And we always had the factor of saying the value of a reservoir is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's the concept of plottage, or sometimes called assemblage, which is that you pay a premium for consolidating a bunch of smaller or larger parcels to get what you need, which is a basin for a reservoir. A purchaser goes out and is essentially compelled to buy all of those, and it has a higher value. So we had to take all of this stuff into account. And we've come up with, I think, is a very unique methodology. We've run a bunch of numbers on it. We think it's fair. We think it's going to be beneficial to the towns. And we hope the hell it works. And one of the things we did to address the question of the lost values for the hamlets and villages that are now submerged is we're going to take any given reservoir and divide it up into hamlet and rural areas, so that, you know, taking the pact and, we'll identify the, and Len will shoot me on this, I'm sure, either the village or the hamlet of Arena. I know I should know which one it was. But to recognize Arena and recognize the other hamlets in there and treat them differently. Because if the city was buying land now, if they were building that reservoir now in the same spot, Arena would be there and the other hamlets would be there. And they would have to pay a premium for that land. Now, we can't project how much Arena would have grown. It may have shrunk. It may have lost value. It's far too speculative to try and take that forward. So we're basically going to recognize it as frozen in time, but grab the value under current prices for what it looked like at the time.